Hey, so I just wanted to talk just a second about this debate because there was a moment here that really struck me where Andrew Wilson is responding to Owen Schroyer's argument regarding the harboring of pedophiles in Israel that flee there from the United States. And Andrew responds basically that the numbers are low.
Gentleman for of pedophiles. So you and I both agree that this happens and it's abhorrent. Do you know that what the numbers are roughly?
The last story I read was a CBS story. It was a couple dozen, I think.
I think total that I could find, I was being as charitable to your view as I could, it's about 200. That's a lot. It's a significant amount. But it's nothing in comparison to the Catholic Church. Nothing. Which is somewhere around 100,000 children, perhaps, or more.
Okay, so first, I just want to say this argument is bizarre because it's a like Andrew Wilson, who's so big on logical fallacies. This is a red herring, right? This is there is no logical reason why this contradicts anything Owen's saying because Owen's saying Trump is should be holding Israel accountable for harboring pedophiles. Andrew says, I agree with that. Didn't you know that the Catholic Church does this too? So even if we accept that it's true, and even if we accept that he said the numbers he's putting out, this doesn't contradict anything Owen's saying. It's just it's a whataboutism. It's like, well, why don't we talk about that? Owen could just easily respond, that's interesting, but the topic of today's debate is Trump and Israel. The topic is not the Catholic Church. It's also bizarre because the whole point of what Owen is saying is that we support Israel, right? We give them billions of dollars in aid. We call them our greatest ally. The United States government doesn't do anything like that with the Catholic Church, right? The United States government is not giving the Catholic Church billions of dollars. It's not legally allowing some sort of relocation to the Vatican or anything like that. So there's no participation with regard to the American political system and this stuff happening in the Catholic Church. If anything, we see that there's a conflict, right? Which is how all these scandals show up, is because the Catholic Church maybe gets a report through their diocese that something happened, and rather than going to the police, they just say, well, we're just going to move the priest, we're just going to handle it ourselves. And then they get in trouble because when the legal system finds out about it, they hold these bishops accountable in the American political system. So what Andrew's saying there doesn't make it's a logical fallacy. It also just isn't relevant to the conversation. And thirdly, right, he asks Owen Schroyer what the numbers are, right? And Owen cites a CBS article, right, which I'm sure is this one, and says it's, I don't know, a few dozen, and Andrew agrees as maybe a couple hundred, right? In the article, it says it's more than 60, right? And then Andrew says the number of Catholic children is 100,000. But what he just did is he flipped from the number of abusers to the number of abused, right? So he's comparing two completely different numbers. And when you talk about abuse situations, a lot of times the numbers are very high because you have one abuser may have a whole classroom experience. Let's say, I'm just going to make up something, right? Let's say a priest exposed himself to a whole classroom of kids. That's 40 people right there, right? And that's just one time. And then if it happens multiple times or whatever, right? So the number he's comparing is different. He should have said, well, the number of priests or accused bishops or whatever is this many. And he knows that because he corrected Owen's number, right? He knows on the one hand he's talking about abusers, and on the other hand he's talking about abused, right? Uh, and then he cites a number. I have no idea where he's getting this, right? Because when I go to bishopaccountability.org, right, when I do searches, I do find it is a large number, right? Um, what I said somewhere in here. This is the list of accused, but the number was around 20,000. If I just do. I had a second ago, but I clicked the wrong thing. numbers. This where it was. Okay, so this is an accountability website, right? And they're saying in the United States the total number is uh 7,000 abusers and 20,000 victims. Okay. So, first, this is the number he should have cited when he was comparing it to the couple hundred from the Jews, right, fleeing to Israel, not this number. And this number also is 1/5 of what he said, right? He said 100,000. Secondly, this says this is in the period from 1950 through 2018, right, which is 68 years. Whereas the CBS article, which was specifically listed, is since the small organization started tracking since 2014, and this is 2020. So 6 years we have 60 from a small organization, which may or may not be tracking all of them, right? Uh, Compared to 68 years 7,000, right? And then we consider how large of an organization the Catholic Church is, right? And how these are accused, right? Accused people, right? This one is people who have not only accused but have fled the country because of the accusation, which I would say, I mean, this part becomes a little bit debatable. I would say carries a much larger reasonable suspicion of that they would have gotten convicted, that they themselves either think they're guilty or they think the evidence is substantial enough that they would get convicted. Whereas these are priests that, just because someone says a priest touched them doesn't mean it's true, right? It does say they threw out, it has to be somewhat credible, right? Not, or rather, not implausible. But the number here is clearly has a much lower standard. So we're talking we're talking much more like there maybe we could say they're equivalent, right? That the number of the Jews going to Israel is equivalent to the number of priests that are being exposed, right? Maybe, right? We could say that. But the numbers he's quoting are clearly completely different data-wise. And he's presenting it, and look at the way he does it. Look at his face, right? He says it like we all know this is true. Like it's really bad and we all know it.
It's a significant amount.
The CBS story, it was a couple dozen, I think.
I think total that I could find, I was being as charitable to your view as I could, it's about 200. That's a lot. It's a significant amount. But it's nothing in comparison to the Catholic Church.
It's nothing in comparison to the Catholic Church. Well, as we just looked at the real data, right? It's maybe similar, right? Maybe we could say it's similar. And and so all of that, right? And it completely misses the issue of the one is being facilitated or ignored, right, by the U.S. political system. Whereas the Catholic thing has been a major scandal, right? They've been held accountable legally, and the government gives no money to the Catholic Church. That's not how that whole system works, right? And the whatever that scandal was that went through that exploded in the Catholic Church, it has uh, has encountered extreme censure and policy changes, right? Whereas the thing in Israel is still going on. And it's the topic of debate. So, like, I feel like there's so many. What he just said there has maybe like 12 issues, like 12 logical data issues, on every category of argumentation. He just like threw out a shotgun shit show. And Owen Shroyer just isn't ready to respond. He kind of responds with like, "Well, I don't really see how that's relevant because I'm not talking about that," which is fair and almost was sufficient in itself. But I bring all this up because this is something which is an issue with what seems to be a recurring issue when I watch Orthodox streamers is they take every opportunity to take a shot at the Catholic Church, right? And when on the other side, Catholics almost never even talk about Orthodox, right? Because I mean, you could say, well, I don't know why, right? The only time you have a Catholic who's taking shots at Orthodox, which they do, is under an Orthodox streamer's video in their comment section, or during some sort of a debate between Catholic and Orthodox. But they wouldn't, if they're, the Roman Catholics seem to consider and have a tone towards the Orthodox as, well, like, hey, we're brothers, we agree on a lot, we're kind of on the same team. We'll put our slight religious differences on the back burner. Whereas the Ortho Bros, in every opportunity, seem to take a shot at Roman Catholicism, even where it doesn't have it had no relevance to this debate, and he sacrificed logic, uh, statistical integrity, kind of his whole shtick, right? He sacrificed it in order to do that, simply because he wanted to make that face and say, well, we know Catholics are pedophiles, right? And so I just wanted to say all that, because it's just, I don't know. I don't know who else I'm gonna send to my sister, right? Anyone who watched this debate, I feel like should. I want someone to tell me, am I wrong? Because that's what I saw, right? Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Because, and if not, it's whatever. I'm not doing this to say, like, I'm not saying this to attack Orthodox, right? I'm just saying this because I feel these shots coming the other way, and I'm just pointing it out.